Welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be focusing on solving and setting up equations using practical problems. We're going to show that proficiency in class by scoring at least an 80% on the exit ticket. Hopefully you have the note sheet in front of you. If you don't, take out a sheet of paper and we'll get you a fresh one tomorrow. Now, when it comes to practical problems with equations, the big thing we want to focus on is highlighting the important information first. Then we want to write the equation. Don't try and write the equation as you're reading it. Make sure you highlight what you need because there's going to be extra stuff that we don't want to worry about. There's extra words we don't need to look at. So, if I look at number 1, Chris has a board that is 44 inches long. He wants to cut it into 2 pieces so that one piece will be 6 inches longer than the other. How long should the shorter piece be? So if we look, the first important thing is the board is 44 inches long. He wants to cut it into 2 pieces so that one piece will be 6 inches longer than the other. And what we're looking for is the shorter piece. So my shorter piece is what I'm going to call X. Now, here's what we need to think about if we're cutting the board into 2. We're going to have short piece plus long piece equals the whole board. Well, I know my short piece, because we don't know what it is, we're going to call it X. My longer piece, I'm going to put it in parentheses because we have some work. It needs to be 6 inches longer than the other. Well, if it's longer, that means we're going to do X plus 6. Because if my shorter piece is X and it's longer than that, that means we have to add to it. So we're adding 6. And my whole board is 44 inches. From here, we can combine like terms. We get 2x plus 6 equals 44. And then we're just going to solve it like a normal equation. So 2x equals 38 if I divide by 2 on both sides. X is going to equal 19 inches, which means my shorter board is 19 inches long. Now, make sure when you're doing word problems that your answers make sense. In this case, a board can be 19 inches. But if I had something that asked about people and it said 19.5, well, you can't have half of a person. So just make sure to go back and reread the problem and see that it makes sense. If we look at number 2, again, we're going to start with highlighting. The length of a rectangular map is 15 inches and the perimeter is 50 inches. Find the width. So, the length of a rectangular map is 15 inches, the perimeter is 50, and width is what I'm solving for. So in this case, because we know what a rectangle looks like, I'm going to draw a picture. So the length is 15 inches, so I'm going to say each side on the length is 15, and the whole perimeter is equal to 50. Find the width. Well, we don't know what the width is, so I'm going to make that my variable, W. Now, you have to remember back to perimeter. Perimeter is all the way around. And if you need to, write yourself a note to remind you. So perimeter equals L plus W plus W. Or if we combine like terms, it is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So now we can fill in the numbers that we know. Well, I know my perimeter is 50. I know my length is 15. But I don't know my width. And that's okay, because now we're going to solve for it. I'm going to start with multiplying, so 50 equals 30 plus 2w. Now I'm going to subtract 30 on both sides, and I get 20 equals 2w. If I divide by 2, my width equals 10 inches. And that makes sense, because if I were to plug it back into here and say w equals 10, w equals 10, well, 15 plus 15 plus 10 plus 10 gives me my perimeter, and that does give me a perimeter of 50 inches. So make sure to go back and check yourself. It doesn't take that much extra time to double check, make sure your answer makes sense, and make sure that it fits the problem. If we look at question 3, again, we want to start with highlighting. And it's the best thing to do is to highlight, highlight, highlight so that you know what's important. In this case, the sum of a number and 9 is multiplied by negative 2. The answer is negative 8. We need to find our number. So we want to take this one piece by piece. The sum of a number and 9 is multiplied by -2. So if I have the sum of a number and 9, so that's x plus 9, is multiplied by -2. Well, if that sum is being multiplied, I'm going to put that -2 out in front. The answer, and that's how I know that -2 goes in front, because the answer is -8. We need to find my missing number. So from here, we want to distribute my -2 through. So -2x minus 18 equals -8. I'm going to add 18 on both sides. And x is going to equal -5. Now, in the case of this problem, it's not talking about boards, it's not talking about people, it's not talking about rectangles, so our answer isn't going to make sense compared to the problem, but if we were to plug it back in, if we say the sum of a number, well, if I say my number is now -5, so the sum of -5 and 9 is multiplied by -2. Well, -5 and 9 give me 4. If I multiply that times -2, I get my answer of -8. Our last one. Given the triangle below, find the value of x. So we need to find x if the perimeter is 75. And all these sides are equally important. Now, the picture's already drawn for us, so we don't have to fill it in. But we need to keep in mind my perimeter is 75. In a rectangle, we added up length times length, width times width, and got 2L plus 2W. In a triangle, our perimeter is you're just adding up all the sides. So in this case, I'm going to fill in what I know. My perimeter is 75. I have 4x plus 5 plus 4x minus 3 plus 2x plus 3. Now, it doesn't matter what order you add the sides up in. Just make sure you add up all 3 sides. From here, I'm going to combine like terms. I have 4x plus 4x plus 2x. So 75 equals 10x, and then I'm going to add 5 minus 3 plus 3, which gives me, oh, and I missed my x, 10x plus 5. Now it's a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. 75 minus 5 is 70 equals 10x. I'm going to divide by 10 on both sides. So x equals 7. Now, in this case, go back and plug your answer in. If I plug in a 7 everywhere I see an x, 4 times 7 is 28, plus 5 is 33. 4 times 7 is 28, minus 3 is 25. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 3 is 17. Well, if I add up, I'm going to erase this over here so we can do that. 33 plus 17, that gives me 50. 50 plus 25 gives me 75. And my original perimeter was 75, so the answer of 7 does work. And take that time to check yourself. It doesn't take much extra time, but it guarantees you a correct answer. Or, if your answer is wrong, now you know to go back and relook at your math that something went wrong. So it's a sure way to check yourself. Please bring your notes and any questions you have to class tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you then.